Hey guys, welcome to another Game Explained discussion. I'm your host, Andre Seegers, and this time we're joined by Derek Boehner and Ash Paulson to discuss a leaked artwork for Zelda Wii U and NX from Amazon, as well as address a debate about the Zelda Lanyards at E3. So let's get started. Alright guys, so I should have seen this coming, because every time before E3 there's something, and sure enough this year there are two things, one a little bit bigger than the other, potentially, and that's the fact that Amazon.com leaked some artwork for Zelda Wii U and NX, which seemingly confirms a new ability of Link's, and that's the fact that he can climb rocks, or go rock climbing, I guess would be a better way of putting it. Now, on top of that, we also saw pictures of the lanyards at E3, because every year Nintendo usually puts artwork on the lanyards for everyone, and this year it is Zelda themed, and there's a debate surrounding that, but we'll get to that in a little bit here. So let's talk the rock climbing stuff first. We already did a full analysis of it, so go check that out if you like. What are your guys' thoughts on this? I guess, and that comes in two forms, I guess. One, do you think the artwork actually is hinting at a rock climbing ability? Because some people are putting out there, it's just artwork, it may not mean anything, and maybe. And two, if it does mean something, if you think it does, what do you think about that ability?
Well, here's the thing. When does Nintendo put out artwork in which they show a character doing something they can't do in the game? I'm honestly trying to think of that.
Me
do
too.
they ever do something like that where they don't have the artwork reflect what you can do within the game? And that sort of tells me that there's going to be some kind of rock climbing element. Now that's the thing. It's not unusual for Link to climb rocks. I mean, we've seen him climb walls before, and Ivy and all that stuff. But usually, it's very clearly denoted as something that you can climb, and the artwork makes it seem like you can't, which brings into the whole idea from your analysis that it could be you could just climb anything and it has more of a stamina meter attached to it. And a lot of people immediately reacted badly to that because nobody liked the stamina meter from Skyward Sword.
Mm-hmm. I didn't mind it. I thought it was fine. I like being able to run around and actually not just kind of plod along at his regular walking pace.
Yeah, but that was fine. But being able but the whole losing time when you climb stuff, people did not like that.
Oh, wow.
So
I thought it was fine. But I agree with you, though, Derek. I can't think of an instance where Nintendo has released artwork where it shows something that you can't do within the game. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, the rock climbing must be a focal point here. Why would they? I mean, it's just not Nintendo style. They're so focused around gameplay already that they've often used their art to communicate what you can do gameplay-wise, so I'm not sure why that would change now.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can maybe see people referencing is artwork from old instruction manuals, which would show Link still doing things he could do in the game, just maybe in a slightly more bombastic fashion. But sure. I definitely don't see that being the case here, especially because this artwork almost straight up looks like it's from the game. It looks almost like a screenshot directly from the game. So I'm convinced it is representative of the kind of experience we are going to get. And let me say this, seeing this artwork, I was stoked. This isn't quite something I ever expected, even though it sounds dumb. If Nintendo does this right, which granted they may not, it could be awesome, because I think it's more than just climbing rocks. This changes how Link goes about the entire environment. And especially in conjunction with what else we've known, as I mentioned in the analysis, the Sailwind, what is it called? I just said it 100 times.
The Sail
Thank you, the Sail Claw.
Yeah.
In conjunction with the towers, and the fact that Nintendo said before that something along the lines of heights are going to play a major role in this game, or it's something of that nature. I am convinced that rock climbing is going to be a major element of this game, and it excites me because it's something they haven't done much of beyond following linear paths like Up Death Mountain, as I even showed footage of from Twilight Princess in my analysis. And I'm also wondering to what extent they could take this. I'm thinking almost now something along the line of the Shadow of the Colossus, where there are entire boss fights based around this mechanic, where you have to climb up them to get to their weak point.
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
That would be really cool. Yeah, I mean, I could see that being a possibility, although I think I would caution against trying to extrapolate too much from one image of climbing
where
rocks.
We are?
But yeah, I know, but I want to.
No, it's true.
You sound so excited,
yeah.
Which honestly, it doesn't happen that often. So I would hate to see you crash.
Well, I'm not. I mean, I'm just looking. I'm excited just from what little we know. Anything I'm adding to that is kind of separate from my initial feelings.
What ifs? Yeah. The thing is that the immediate thing I took away from this is just looking at this artwork. I'm like, yes, I want to go here. I mean, we've been so starved for Zelda anything. lately, that having artwork showing off this world once again, giving a better idea of what it's going to be like. It's like, yes, set me free in here. Let me explore this new Hyrule and, climb, race around on Epona, whatever. And I think that's the key thing here, is that people were starting to become, a little disenfranchised, I guess would be kind of the word for it, with Zelda, because we just have seen so little, and Nintendo just kept delaying it. And I don't think people realized until this artwork came out, at least some people, me included, how much they were missing this game, how much they wanted this game. And to finally see new stuff, it's like, yes, please, give it to us, get us this game.
This is really the first hint of anything new about this game we've seen since at the Game Awards.
It really is.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. And I think that's also partially why I'm so hyped over rock climbing, because it's something else about this game that we can finally point to and, think about and dream about. Yeah, and, as I mentioned, exploring the world, like, we can see a fair amount of this world in that picture as well, including, as I pointed out in the analysis, what could be Hyrule Castle, and going off of that, it offers all kinds of other ideas, which we also explore in the analysis. So, you know what I like? I mentioned before, I like mysteries, and right now everything's looking pretty mysterious. So,
yeah, it's actually kind of amazing that this is all that's leaked so far about Zelda, considering all the other E3 leaks that are coming out right now. Like the Slim got leaked, the Xbox One Slim got leaked, the Titanfall thing that happened,
Dead Rising 4
going on right now. It's amazing that Nintendo's been able to keep a tight lid on this, especially with their.
I'm shocked that we don't even have the subtitle yet. I figured we would at least have that early.
It's not even on the lanyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know what if they just call it the New Legend of Zelda?
What if there's a reboot? It's just The Legend of Zelda, like the original.
Your reaction to that would be amazing. I mean, granted, I would hate that too. And even my wife just looked over at me like, she hates those like new Super Mario Brothers naming schemes. So, but hey, that's something Nintendo would do.
The name should never be something that itself becomes outdated. That is so stupid.
Yeah.
But the New Legend of Zelda sounds so exciting.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I'm just excited on what all that could mean. Although there is one thing here that doesn't give me a little bit of concern. Well, it's more a concern. And that is, I really hope there is an actual mechanic or actual gameplay to the rock climbing. I don't want something like Uncharted, where you're just tapping X and going along a very clear set path. And I don't think there will be a clear path in this case, but I still hope there's more to it than just tapping X to climb. And I'm guessing there is a stamina meter that will play into it to some degree. Maybe you can like rest at points to regain some stamina. I'm not quite sure how that would work, but I do hope there's some kind of mechanic where it takes skill maybe to climb these walls, and you're not just holding a direction.
I hope so too, and at the same time, it makes it interesting to think about what they could possibly do to make climbing interesting.
That's a tricky thing, yeah.
Even thinking back to Ocarina of Time, like, I get a little bored having to climb the vines as soon as the Deku Tree.
That's true.
Like, when you're in the first dungeon, it's like, oh, Link climbs so slowly, and it's like, I just want to get to where I'm going, And, yeah.
Going off of that, well, we've already seen them speed it up a little bit in Skyward Sword with you being able to hop around. And maybe that's how they'll do it. Maybe it'll be like almost have like a timing mechanic to it, where you have to, almost like a music game, where you have to time your taps correctly to like maybe release and grab. To grab these ledges. I'm just speculating again, but I don't think they'll go back to the old way of taking forever to climb a ladder or something like that. So
yeah,
it has to be. That's the thing. It has to be fun. And given how many mountains we've seen in this game, this might be a pretty big component of it. So I think this core mechanic has to be fun.
Yeah,
one would hope. I mean,
yeah, certainly.
I'm trying to think about the last bit of climbing that was like fun and active and all that, and the only one I can really think of as far as like keeping you active at all times is Shadow of the Colossus, and that's because of the grip meter and trying to manage the grip meter, but also because you're just getting tossed off all the time, and I don't think we can expect these mountains to move quite in that manner. So it might all come down to whatever the stamina meter is, or might be closer to Shadow of the Colossus and be a grip meter, and that's how you rest. You have to like rest and like figure out where you're going and most efficient way to get to those next resting points. And even that could be maybe a little dull. So I really am not sure of what they could do to keep climbing interesting throughout the game.
Well, it could be what we were talking about, that stamina meter growing larger as you progress through the game. I mean, I love the idea that when you start out, you might be able to get to some certain vista, but then you can see how much further you could possibly go, but Link just isn't strong enough to do it yet, and that kind of leaves you with the promise of more to discover later on. And that could definitely keep climbing interesting. I love the idea of an organic, ever-expanding world that really is only limited by how far you can explore at your current time in the game.
I totally agree. Like, I think that would be an interesting way of going about it, especially if, like, what if there are points in the game that only give the appearance that you need to be stronger to reach them, but you actually can reach them if you're good enough at the climbing mechanic. So, like,
I love that idea.
Right? Wouldn't that be cool? So, like, if you're not good at it, you can get there eventually, just not, from the start of the game. Whereas if you are good at it, you can just climb up like a monkey and get up to it. So,
or even better, like, use that sailcloth to, like, glide into the mountain, grip on from that point, and then keep climbing so you can start at a higher point.
Yeah. Exactly, and that brings me to another good point. Like, combined with the sailcloth, I do think this, like, it's not just the climbing. I think it will factor into, the way you navigate around this world in, like, a puzzle sense. Because I think they could make it where, like, you have to, like, climb up to a certain point, sailcloth over to another point, climb up there, sailcloth somewhere else. I'm just, there's any number of ways I could take this, but I do think the sailcloth is going to be used in conjunction with rock climbing quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. That would make sense. And the funny thing is that we only have, 2 days until we find this out? A day and a half, really.
Real soon.
Yeah.
We're
soon. Just about there.
Well, it sort of helps that, good, we don't have to speculate about this for 6 months until we get something else.
That's our bread and butter. That's our bread and butter, Derek. So I don't know.
Yeah, I know, but it's nice to actually have something concrete.
But also, this is also Nintendo. We also didn't think that we would have to be speculating about the NX for the rest of the year.
God, that's true. You're right.
You never really know with them.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Well, speaking of E3, so we've seen pictures of the lanyards now come out from the show. And as I mentioned before, it has Link on them. Actually, 2 versions of the Link. And this is causing a bit of a debate online, apparently, with some people thinking the hooded one, the hooded Link, looks more feminine. And some people are taking this as a sign that perhaps there actually is a gender option this time. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I can see what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. It's hard to say because I still kind of believe there is going to be something to do with the gender of Link in this game, but... So, I would say that the art that leaked today was very masculine. Like, you made it very clear that Link was, masculine in that image. But I can see what people are talking about because the hooded Link in general does look more feminine. And I think it's the shadowing caused by the hood that makes Link appear that way. And I don't know if it's coincidence or not.
It's very much softer features, and it's interesting because this is obviously a cloak that's going over him or her to make a hood, and it makes me think, what's the purpose of that cloak?
Right.
Is there a reasoning behind it, or is it a stylistic choice, which would call back to Linkle, whose defining thing is that she has this hood that she can put up if she wants. You can also take it down, but there's that option. I don't know if it's more of a stylistic thing or anything else, but it's such. I look, just glancing at this, it does feel like, just maybe because of the softer lighting, it's a I don't know, the softer features. But it all might be playing my head because I look at the Link that has the bow and arrow, and the scowling looks a lot more, I don't know. It's weird to say mannish.
Well, it's impossible now to talk about anything gender related without triggering someone.
Yeah.
I feel like. So, but yeah, it looks traditionally more masculine. That's
and the one on the right. I mean, even if it is male Link, who cares? I mean, it still has that, but doesn't look quite as angry. I mean, it still has those furrowed brows, but it's just sort of like, I don't know. I'm looking at it now. It looks like it's looking at me in disdain. It's like, what the heck?
It's Japanese Kirby versus American Kirby.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you hit bingo. So I'm on the same page, basically. I can see where people are coming from. I honestly don't know which way I fall. Like, I can see it going either way. We've seen the hood play a prominent role, though, throughout Zelda Wii U's development. And I speculated before maybe ties into some kind of stealth element of the game, and who knows whether that will exist or not. But we've also heard rumblings of there being a female version or a female playable character, and this might be it. And it is interesting that, I mean, this isn't in isolation. This is a direct comparison of these two versions of Link on the same lanyard. So I could honestly see it maybe being a hint as one of their big announcements on Tuesday.
Me too.
And maybe what the purpose of the hood is to hide longer hair.
Yeah, and well, there is one problem here though, and that's the fact that her tunic isn't pink. So I don't know how we're gonna know that.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, right.
I mean, well, this is
Thankfully, we're not
Nintendo we're
doing
talking
that.
about, Derek. I mean, come on. How else
Yeah,
would we
I
know?
That's true. I mean, Princess Peach does wear a pink dress, and that's how we know, So yeah, no, it's really it's hard. Like I don't know where I fall on this, like you guys, because I can see what people are talking about for sure, and there seems to be something to the gender aspect of Link this time, just with all the rumblings about it. But I'm not 100% convinced that these are two different Links, but I definitely see why people think it might be, and I could see that. So
Exactly.
It's really hard to say where I fall on this.
So, unfortunately, I have to drop out right now because I have a flight to catch in like 15... Well, I have to get to the airport in 15 minutes. So if you guys have anything more, feel free to continue on. I'm going to drop out. So, yeah, catch you guys later.
All right.
All right, bye. I mean, I'm pretty good. What
I
about
think
you?
I'm good too.
Yeah, I think that was a perfect spot. He just
Yeah.
sort of had to go. So, yeah, I guess I'll take over from here. But I think that pretty much covers our basic thoughts right now. I mean, yeah, we got, of course, more coming out with Nintendo's E3 Treehouse, and we'll see what that contains and all that. But I don't know. I'm excited. Are you, Ash?
I'm excited. Like Andre said, I think that art that leaked today really did give us our first new taste of maybe something concrete to expect from Zelda since that Game Awards trailer so long ago. So it is nice to finally have some sort of sign of life.
Yeah.
Of course, we always knew that the game was alive and well, but it's just nice to see it. And it's nice to know that we really are 2 days away from the big unveiling of the next mainline console Zelda, and it sounds like they're really going to follow through on some of these changes. So we're about to find out. We're on the cusp of it, and it's exciting.
Yep, completely agree. So, yeah, with all that said, thank you guys for watching. And, of course, stay tuned to Game Explained for more on Zelda, Wii U, and X, I guess it would be, and other things gaming as well. See you guys soon. Bye. Well, guys, that would have been the end of the discussion, except that not too long after we finished recording it, Nintendo decided to release the artwork themselves. And, well, Andre's on a flight currently to here. I had to do the update, and now we're just Ash and I trying to give our thoughts on exactly what this new artwork shows. I guess more expanded artwork because, the Amazon artwork was just cropped.
Yeah.
So this is what the actual artwork is, and we get some new details, and, of course, some better resolution, which is also the image I've been using for this discussion. So, we have a bridge, we have a clearer look at these towers, and we have a lake. What do you think of all this new all these new landmarks, Ash?
Well, I think I like that we know now with the new tower that we can see with the blue line in the foreground. We now know that what could have been a waterfall in the background, kind of in the middle of the image, has to be a tower now. We know it's another tower.
Yeah.
Not a waterfall anymore. The bridge, I mean, of course, it's hard not to think of the Bridge of Eldin. Like, that's the first thing that you think of when you see a bridge like this in a Zelda game. Of course, it doesn't need to be the same thing, but that's what I thought of. What's most interesting to me is that based on the geography that we've already been talking about in our previous discussion, that has to be, but it seems to me that body of water would be Lake Hylia, because we've got Death Mountain in the north, we've got Hyrule Castle kind of situated in between the two, and then we've got Lake Hylia in the south here. So I would venture to guess that is Lake Hylia that we're looking at.
I'd agree. And what I kind of like about this is, all these bits of rivers splitting off. It's not just a lake. We can see all the rivers feeding into the lake and seeing how it all goes. And actually, if we look at the map that we got from the Game Awards show, it matches up with that as well. And willing to bet, during Andre's analysis, I said, and I mentioned this during the update, that he pointed out a bridge with a lake at the bottom. This matches up pretty well. So it looks like the actual map of Zelda Wii U hasn't changed that much since Game Awards.
Right, and I have to say, I mean, the bridge and Lake Hylia, if that is what it is, being around that and kind of all the rivers feeding into it, that does remind me a lot of Twilight Princess, because Twilight Princess did have, Upper Zora River and all the various rivers feeding into Lake Hylia at the bottom, which is where there is a bridge overhead as well. So, it's interesting. I'm definitely getting a few similarities to Twilight Princess's overall world design or layout. I'm not making an actual connection, but it's just interesting to note.
Yeah, there's a lot of connections all over, really, that kind of just feed into it, making more of a amalgamation, and it all kind of works, because it's the big complaint about Twilight Princess, the world's empty. This world does not look empty.
Yeah.
Even just even if there's nothing to do in it, looks like at least the geography is much more interesting to look at.
Right.
It's not just all flat. Now, the interesting thing as well is that we got this blue energy with the towers. And one thing, like, people think towers, especially in what potentially could be an open world game. And a lot of people are thinking that these towers could function in the same way that an Ubisoft open world game could be, where you open up more of the map as you reach them and activate them in that way. Do you think Nintendo will go that route and have them be a way to open up the map more?
It's possible. It's really hard to say. The towers don't seem that necessarily spread out, like the two on the left here. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like you'd have to go too far to reach both of them, between each other. So I don't know what purpose that would serve, and if they were serving as like checkpoints, like a la Link Between Worlds, for example, you'd think we'd see more of them. I'm thinking they might serve more of a story purpose.
That could be.
I don't think these are going to be checkpoints. I think the fact that they have such distinctive designs and they're part of the key art, I don't think checkpoints are something Nintendo would put in key art. I think these have to be in service of the story or the mythology in this version of Hyrule, something like that. So that's the idea I'm getting. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm counting 4 of these blue energy towers on this picture, right?
Yeah, that's actually what I'm seeing too.
Yeah, and that coincides with the 4 towers, which also coincides with the 4 dungeon rumor.
Yeah.
So what if these mark roughly where the dungeons are located, and it's up to the player to find out how to actually get into them?
Now that would be interesting,
right?
Because let's say the blue energy is what's powering those stones.
Exactly.
Because we did have that. Another part of the rumor was nature versus technology. So
right.
We're shutting down the technology of these towers in order to, I guess, shut off the magic that's surrounding the castle, because we got a nice look at the swirls there, and that would be interesting. I mean, they do seem relatively well spread out, and it all, I don't know, like I feel like we're getting a better sense of it because of this new artwork, and it helps that it's also a lot clearer.
Well, and I think it's also worth noting that we see Link climbing a rock face very close to one of the towers, and I don't think that's necessarily a coincidence. I mean, what if Link is maybe the objective Link is looking for is at the top of the cliff? Like maybe there's a dungeon or something at the top of the cliff. I don't think it's necessarily a coincidence that he's so close to one in this image.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. Now that said, though, if these are, let's say I'm correct, and these roughly mark the locations of the 4 dungeons, that doesn't necessarily seem like that big a world, Like
yeah, but we're also have to get a better sense of scope, because honestly, I mean, the whole thing against your dungeon idea is that the locations of these towers aren't necessarily interesting.
Exactly.
Because we got one near that building on the left, we got one a little closer to Hyrule. There's nothing near Death Mountain or anything like that. I mean, the usual places that we'd visit aren't going there. So I'm not quite sure if it'll mark these the 4 things, but they might still have some connection to the dungeons, just not as the dungeons themselves.
Right.
And that's a bigger question, I suppose.
Now, this could just be a cloud, but what do you make of this little whirlpool-looking thing in the middle of what we think is Lake Hylia? Like, is that just a cloud from our perspective, or could that be something?
It might be just something in there, but it's also, what if we have a sea monster? Like, what if that's a boss? And we saw enemies chasing Link before. Maybe if you go into Link Hylia, enemies chase, or a big enemy can attack you or something like that. I mean, we don't know how interactive this world is going to be, and that's intriguing. To see what they'll decide to do, or how they'll fill out this world. And I think that's the biggest question with all this.
And it does seem to me that we were right on about this being the TP-like structure seen earlier in the Game Awards footage. Mm-hmm. So that now the high resolution allows us to see that. So I agree that even though this isn't necessarily a new image now, getting more clarity has really helped kind of add context to everything.
Extra clarity helps out so much. Like when I was doing the Pokemon map analysis, we finally got a high-res version, and just being able to see exactly what's being depicted can help you have a much better idea of what's going on. And we're getting that now with Zelda Wii U.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame we didn't get it earlier. It would have been nice if Nintendo had released this and we could have gotten to see exactly what was going on here. So
well, we know at this point that they're doing it on purpose. They timed their releases with our discussion. It's like, okay, now.
Oh, just analysis. All that work for the analysis. 4 hours doing that, and boom, we got something. You got, oh no, here's the real image. So,
Now,
you gotta love it.
I'm seeing something a little interesting here, right directly below and slightly to the right of the third, like the middle tower in the image. It looks like a little, either maybe a little village or a grove of trees or something.
Yeah.
That seems a little, I don't know, it seems like it stands out a bit.
It does stand out a bit.
Yeah.
It could be something. It could be nothing.
Right.
Again, there's only so much you can, like, you can zoom in and
Those
see these
look
things.
like houses to me.
They might
Kind
be.
of. They look like houses with some trees. I wonder if that's possibly a village or something.
I mean, I don't know. Kakariko would not be there. I don't
No,
think
it wouldn't.
so.
But then again, I mean, Twilight Princess, the where old Kakariko was, made no sense in the context of Hylian geography, as we know.
that's
So,
true.
so I don't know if we can necessarily depend on that too much because Nintendo themselves haven't really been consistent with some of the locations. They are with some of the overall locations,
Yeah.
but this is just interesting. Like now that we have a little more context and we have kind of a vision of this version of Hyrule as it appears. I'm looking forward to seeing where this all fits.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on in this world. Why are we here? What's going on with these towers? Like, now that we have a little more context for the few clues we've been given over the past couple of years, I'm excited to see what's gonna develop.
This treehouse presentation is, I think, going to be bigger than we thought, because I went in there here with very low expectations just because I didn't know what to expect. Now that I'm getting an idea of what we might be seeing from all this, it's definitely getting me excited.
Yeah, me too. And something else I just noticed is that for the bridge here, some of the supports are broken, and that also does remind me of the Bridge of Elden.
Yeah.
And I also think the Hylia Bridge as well. So I think both bridges in Twilight Princess had broken supports like that.
Yeah.
Again, not necessarily a direct connection, but it's interesting to know.
Yeah, and if this is Lake Hylia, this would be the Hylia Bridge. So.
Right. So,
Huh.
this is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So that's about everything I think that we could just pull out from this in our general reaction to this expanded artwork. So yeah. Once again, thank you guys for watching, and of course, stay tuned to Game Explained for more on Zelda Wii U. That's coming up on Tuesday, very soon. And yeah, of course, more other E3 coverage as well. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.